So yeah, officially welcome everyone to our Roundtable X Spaces, which is hosted by Morningstar Ventures. And today we will actually explore what it's like to build scalable Web3 infrastructure solutions within Web3. And of course, we know that Web3, it's the backbone of this very vast ecosystem. And it's also the reason why we can drive efficiency, scalability, privacy, and also interoperability, which, as we know, are all really key elements to Web3 and also what increases mass adoption. So today we've invited four really great projects and also speakers from this project who are all building infrastructure solutions actually across various sub-industries within crypto. So joining the panel today are Jose, who's the head of Web3 at Gaimin, Julian, the co-founder and CEO at KIP Protocol. We have Ethan, who's in developer relations at Particle Network, and also Gav, the co-founder of Tevaera. Now, before we get started with a round of introductions from our speakers, just so you know, everyone, this session is recorded and we'll be sharing it after the roundtable is over as well. But my name is Naini, and co-hosting with me is my colleague Peter. Some of you guys might know him also as Peter the Great. And for those that also want to ask questions to our speakers, please feel free to use the comment section of this X Spaces to write whatever you want to ask. Or what you can also do is wait till the end of our X Spaces and you can ask in the live Q&A session, which is always around 10 minutes at the end. Okay, that's it from me for now. Let's get started with a round of introductions. As I said before, you guys are all, building infrastructure, but kind of across different spaces, whether that's gaming or, chain abstraction. And it would be really great to hear a quick introduction of yourselves, how you got into crypto, and also what it is that you're working on. Julian, your name is first in my screen. So how about you kick it off?
How unfortunate now I'm going to get off the bit. No, I'm kidding. Um, uh, yes, happy to do that. So, how do I begin? Okay, so I am an old internet fart. I've been in the startup space. I've been a startup founder since '98, and did a series of, I suppose you would call them Web 1 companies. And I had a few exits. Basically, went the whole 0 to 1 and a 1 to 5 type journey. Been through a couple of booms and busts. After by 2015, I had managed to sell out of almost all of them, and became a VCPE investor into basically three different categories: crypto, robotics, and AI. And that was around 2016 when I entered into crypto, which kind of caught that. Well, that was the Ethereum boom, the Ethereum ICO boom, and like most people, rode it all the way up and all the way down. Okay, and but I kind of never left crypto since then, and I also continued investing into promising startups. Crypto and AI became the ones that I think I had a bit more success in. Robotics is not a great business to invest in. It eventually turns to the manufacturing business. Anyway, and a bit on Kip. So what happened was I invested into a company that was quite an established or experienced AI and data consulting company since 2019. And that same company was tasked by Animoca to do basically an AI analysis board for Web3 projects. And we did that project. We finished the product, and when we were trying to decentralize um, that particular product into Web3, we realized there was a complete lack of tools that help AI developers do that. So Kip Protocol was formed essentially by late 2022 to build that complete infrastructure and a set of tools that would help AI developers, specifically AI model owners, AI app developers, and AI data owners to be able to deploy, connect, and monetize their work in Web3. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit more about your individual projects later, but thanks for the introduction. Ethan, why don't you go ahead?
Sure, yeah. So I guess start with a little bit about myself. I do developer relations at Particle Network. My real name is, of course, Ethan, although I go by the alias Tabasco. I've been doing developer relations in the space now for, I guess, coming up on around 3 years. Previously, I led developer relations at a pretty popular RPC provider, and then joined Particle, I guess, almost a year ago at this point. And so a little bit about kind of, what we do at Particle. At Particle, we've been building UX solutions for a long time. So you may kind of know us for our like social logins and our account abstraction and stuff like that, which we've been producing for quite a while and growing across the ecosystem. There's around 1,000 applications in the ecosystem that use our account abstraction stack and social logins and whatnot. Although this year, what we really want to do is focus on this idea of chain abstraction. Because what we did is we could recognize that there's quite a few problems in the spaces, especially surrounding user and liquidity fragmentation. Meaning, as a user, I have to basically manually bridge to move my funds across chains, and I have to kind of cognitively be aware of multiple balances across chains. And this friction isn't necessarily associated with the future that we're moving towards, which is the modular thesis, essentially, centered around the idea of scaling via app chains. So scaling via application-specific blockchains, sovereign blockchains that are supposed to eventually result in the kind of deployment of 1,000 blockchains. So if we want to get to that point, then what we realize is that we're currently on a UX level on a trajectory that's definitely not compatible with that type of environment. So we wanted to basically take our kind of abstraction stack and evolve it towards the idea of chain abstraction, which we'll get into a little bit later. But basically the idea is that we're building infrastructure today that allows you as a user to leverage applications across any blockchain without needing to manually bridge or manage your balances between those chains. So you can essentially use applications without even knowing the chain that application is built on. This is really important because this means that as a user, when you're using what we call universal accounts or our chain abstraction infrastructure, you can essentially leverage applications from any part of the ecosystem without even understanding what the underlying blockchain infrastructure is or how it looks like. And we see this as being a really crucial step towards the enablement and mass adoption. We're already live on testnet and we are pushing towards this pretty quickly. So we're very excited about this, and we believe this is definitely one of the few things that are needed in the space right now to really unlock the potential for consumer adoption. So that's what we're building at Particle Network.
You mentioned UX a little bit already, and we will be diving into that and then seeing also across all projects what the efforts are there. But thanks. Do you want me to call you Tabasco or Ethan? What do you prefer?
Ethan works. People use both. I used to be anonymous, okay, but Ethan's usually a little bit better.
Okay, great. I'll call you Ethan then. Thanks, Ethan. Gav, go ahead. Please let us know what you how you got into crypto and introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, XEY, Citibank, been in the management consulting space for the past 15 years, advising Fortune 500 companies, been a lifelong gamer as well. And my crypto journey started back in 2016. Got into the Ethereum ecosystem space, did the ICO era in 2017 and really got interested in some of the, fundamentals here and what we were trying to do as a community. So stuck around, became a crypto maxi. And then Axie happened, I think in late 2018, 19. That became and I was an early adopter there. And that became an inspiration for, being a passionate gamer and crypto maxi. How do we bring all those things together with better infrastructure, better experience, more fun games? And again, this was one of the first games that was being tried in Web3, and they were the ones that created this category. So got inspired there, and took me a while to get these things together, and the idea of bringing Tevaera together. So we are building a one-stop gaming ecosystem, where you can come and build and play multi-genre games, offering a comprehensive L3-based gaming ecosystem that's being powered by ZK Stack on ZK Sync. So super excited about our first game that launched a few months ago. It's been awesome, and looking forward to the space. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And on the topic of gaming, we have our last guest, but definitely not least, Jose from Gaimin. Do you want to give us a quick introduction as well?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nani and Peter. Great for having us at Gaimin. To start, well, I got into crypto. My name is Jose, heading Web3 at Gaimin. I started in crypto quite late in 2020 after I had one of my high school friends showed me his portfolio from the cycle of 2017. Been all across the spectrum from bedroom speculator, corporate investor to venture capital. Started in traditional finance, private equity, and real estate funds. Then I was very fortunate to get into a digital asset manager that aggregates different exchanges. Point is, I joined them to build their corporate venture arm and then went off to launch a fund with two partners. Now, operating at Gaming, what we do is in simple, we are building the world's largest decentralized supercomputer. And how we do it, um, gamers have very advanced PCs, high performance PCs, and often their GPU, CPU is underutilized. What we do is that we enable them to connect their PCs to our network and we help them monetize it. So in return for them sharing their PC with their compute with us, they earn rewards, and that for them is a passive income stream. What we do is that then we aggregate this compute from all these gamers and we sell it to those who need it. You can think of anything that requires complex calculations, data analysis, data processing, AI, machine learning. Um, yeah, so we are providing an alternative for these companies compared to your centralized providers that might be less flexible, more expensive. Um, yeah, so that's what we do at Gaming, and a little bit about me.
Great. I love how you mentioned that it was an old high school friend of yours. I feel like everyone in crypto's got like an old high school or university friend.
Yeah.
They're just like thankful for, like, thanks for bringing me here, bro. How's it gonna be?
Thanks for the unhealthy addiction.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's really great to have you guys all on board. And I want to kick off the topic with something already that Ethan, you had mentioned, which is user experience. So UX, it's obviously super important when building actually any type of product. And I think especially in the very complicated world of crypto. So, if you don't have an understandable product, people are obviously not going to use it. That decreases mass adoption and also, is not good for your protocol. So what we do see at the moment is obviously a lot of projects who have their head down and are super focused on creating a solid user experience for their infrastructure solutions. So with that in mind, what steps are your projects taking to ensure that you are creating a smooth UX for both your experienced crypto users, but also just, for newcomers to the space? And Ethan, because you had mentioned it earlier, why don't you kick off from your side?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, crypto and solutions within the Web3 space, UX has always been a particular challenge for most protocols because just it's quite different from Web2. There's more challenges in terms of creating solid UX, and of course, our business model, really since we started, has been trying to solve a lot of these points of friction. But I want to focus on specifically how we're kind of improving this from the standpoint of chain abstraction, which is kind of our focus at the moment. So to kind of go back and maybe provide a little bit more context as to what I mentioned earlier, currently in the space, one of the largest issues in terms of actual onboarding and implementation usage of the ecosystem is the siloing and the fragmentation across different chains. So what I mean by this is, as a user, I on-ramp or I onboard into a certain chain, let's say Arbitrum, right? I use the applications in Arbitrum and I have a good time on the chain, whatever. It's good enough in terms of UX. And then I want to move to an application on another chain, on Base, for example. well, now as a user, I have to go find a bridge and I have to go execute the bridge. And maybe this can be expensive or slow or not super secure, things of that nature. And then I go do that. And then now I have two balances. So now I have a balance on Arbitrum and I have a balance on Base. And now I have to manage this in my mind. And okay, I'm done with applications on Base. I want to go back to Arbitrum. And then now I want to go over to Polygon. Okay, now I have to go bridge again. Now I'm managing a third balance in my head. And you can kind of see where this goes, where it's like, there really is no unification across the ecosystem when you look at the context of multiple chains, because Web3 isn't necessarily built for that. Web3 and all of its infrastructure at the moment is built for the isolation of different blockchains. And it makes sense because, we've operated under this idea for quite a while that Web3 is going to be scaled through the means of a single generalized monolithic blockchain that enables, the kind of global state machine of Web3, where, it's going to be like the one chain and one and all type of thing. But we've transitioned, especially in the Ethereum ecosystem, away from this a little bit towards the idea of scaling via a modular thesis, which is essentially this idea of, instead of applications all trying to build on one or two main large efficient blockchains, they just each launch their own small application-specific blockchains. So you have 1,000 rollups or 1,000 app chains for different applications that are just simply launching their app, but they have their own kind of block space to do so. So this is, of course, a very popular theory and kind of idea and mechanism of scaling that's been growing a lot recently, and for good reason, in my opinion. But like I mentioned earlier, this can't be achieved if the aforementioned fragmentation is still true, because everything that I just mentioned about, moving between Arbitrum and Base and Polygon and other EVM chains and managing different balances, you can imagine that this actually gets much worse once you start fragmenting the ecosystem further and introducing app chains and whatnot. Because now you're not managing 3 balances, you're managing, 20, 30, 40 balances. And you have to find more bridges. And I mean, this is just a pretty miserable user experience. So an alternative to this, and basically like the core part of UX we're focusing on at Particle is really to eliminate that friction. And this is kind of where the UX part of our solution comes in, which is essentially the ability for users to leverage applications and different app chains or applications on different kind of more generalized blockchains, whatever it may be, without needing to really understand the differences and the actual mechanisms of moving across those chains. So it's just very simply taking the entire currently fragmented ecosystem and unifying it under one user experience. And basically it's making it feel as if we were all building on a single chain. So you get the great UX of building on one chain to rule them all, this kind of idea, right? So this idea of one monolithic blockchain that everybody's building on. So you get that same user experience, but you can apply it to a much more sustainable method of scaling, which is a modular thesis and app chain. So you basically have the ability to interact across app chains, interact across blockchains, as if you were interacting across just one chain. And that's how it feels to end users. So this is really what the idea that we're trying to get into. And this is what we're enabling with our universal account technology, which is just very simply allowing users to have sort of one account, one balance that they can leverage across every chain. And this is both applicable to brand new users and experienced users. And it's the same for both. And it's a problem equally for both, in my opinion. And I think through solving this, it's going to make it much easier for experienced users to move across the ecosystem, move liquidity across the ecosystem, and leverage applications. And for newcomers, it'll make the space much less confusing. So this is really what we're building at Particle, and this is how we're kind of contributing on a UX level.
Yeah, great that you elaborated a bit more on your answer before, Ethan. Julian, I'd be also interested to hear how that works at KIP and what you guys are doing on the UX level, and especially also since you're in integrating AI as well.
Thank you. So, kind of appropriate. I'm following Ethan in this question because on the UX side, one of the first things we did was to introduce account abstraction from Particle Network, and the reason why we did that was, I mean, in the nature, what we were trying to do at the time was decentralized reg. This was early this year, or late last year, early this year, but RAG is just a process in which you do AI queries on external data sets. That means you are making a user is making queries of data that the model itself doesn't natively know. That means it hasn't been trained on that. And when you're trying to decentralize that, which is three pieces, and trying to, let's say, pay for that query, the problem with it is the repeated interactions between the AI app, the model, and the external data set, in which they could be individually owned, which means they need to be individually paid. If you run it normally, you do a normal build and just connect them on the blockchain, and they are talking to each other, but you're also trying to account for the payments that are recorded before between them as they interact. The problem with it is that your MetaMask in the normal interaction will be popping up 3-4 times. Okay, you ask a single question in in a decentralized chatbot, talking to a decentralized model, retrieving information from a decentralized knowledge base, your MetaMask essentially pops up 3 to 4 times for every single question, which obviously is a horrendous user experience. Okay, so what we did, and I believe we were the first to do so, was to introduce account abstraction, right? So in our quest to make decentralized reg smooth, we actually worked very closely with Ethan and Particle Network to integrate account abstraction as part of, I would say, the front-facing user interface and user experience. So that's on the pure end user experience side. But what we have done is also, because our primary customers would be AI developers or users, our primary users of Kip protocol would be AI developers looking to deploy their work in Web3, right? So we had previously already built Web 2.5 interfaces, okay, or platforms, which would basically make it really, really easy. Okay, so it's just basically drag and drop, point and click type interface for you to be able to create, whether it's your data set or whether it's your application, right? And then one click deployment and tokenization. Okay, which tokenization is minting, like you're minting a token that wraps the AI asset. So I think the role of UX is hugely important. There is, of course, sometimes I would say a very strange appeal, especially for hardcore developers on very, very difficult and maybe somewhat esoteric type of layouts. That okay, if you know, you know, but for the most part, people just want it fast and obvious. So in every step of our product design, okay, whether it's facing the end users, so in which we use account abstraction, or for our developers, we try to make it easy. We try to make the developer experience as easy as it would be for an end user. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. Yeah, definitely makes sense that you followed Ethan on this one, given your collaboration as well. And Gav, I'm interested to hear from you actually from the Tevaera perspective, because you obviously are building this like one-stop gaming platform, but then also using ZK on ZK Sync. So of course, like, how are you dealing with creating a smooth UX for your users, but also how do you kind of balance, having such a like complex technical solution, but then still making sure that your product is simplified?
Yeah, that's a great question. UX has been really important from us right from the get go. One of the reasons why we chose to build on ZK Sync was they have implemented account abstraction natively at the protocol level, which helps us do a lot of different use cases and applications on our platform. A couple of examples, I think Julian and Ethan already touched upon them, but in terms of onboarding the users, especially if you have your game on chain, and it's really important that they're not interacting with the wallet, every 5 seconds to do these transactions while playing the game. That's a horrendous UX. So with our session keys implementation, we have this implemented at our platform for a couple of transactions right now, but it's going to be implemented, in all our games and across our platform. And what this session key does is, it lets you define your playtime, how much you want to spend, and basically just let this be approved at a smart contract level, and then enjoy seamless on-chain gaming for the defined time. We've tested this with some of our early users, and the feedback we have gotten and the UX there has just been a game changer. We also have a paymaster implementation right now where you can pay your gas fees in different tokens, giving you the flexibility and not binding you to holding just one token, for paying the gas fee. I think another major thing we are looking at, in the future, and Paymaster is going to help us implement that, is around sponsoring the gas fees and making the experience gasless, especially as we launch our own L3 chain here. And that's one of our motivations to do it, is really use this to get the gas fee, the gas cost, super low. And I really see a future where what you see in Web2 today, where AWS is running behind the scenes. All the companies are absorbing the cost there, and the users are just interacting with the applications, right? So we're probably heading towards a future where that becomes a reality for Web3 crypto as well. Where the gas is sponsored, you can log in with your email. Your wallet gets created in the background. You can still do all the native crypto transactions without having to worry about all these things. And that's where we are headed in terms of scaling it for our gamers and providing them a seamless UX when they come to our platform.
Thank you so much, everyone, for great answers. I think we're all pretty much aligned on the thesis around simplifying UX and working on such aspects as a gas abstraction, chain abstraction, and simplifying onboarding overall, and making a smoother user experience in crypto as possible. That's why we even see that our today's guests even work with each other, like Kib and Particle, and collaborating on making it happen faster and sooner for their own products. And I would like to go a bit deeper into the technologies that each of you are building, and would like to start with Ethan. So, as an L1, you create like this seamless onboarding experience by providing this universal accounts that you already mentioned earlier today. And I want to ask a bit more about how do you solve the issue of fragmented liquidity across L1s and L2s? Because as you also already mentioned, this is one of the main issues, that we have so much liquidity in crypto and stable coins across different EVM, non-EVM chains. And how do you see how the industry can maximize the capital efficiency and trading experience for people who have so many and people and institutions who have so many assets across different chains, protocols, in synthetic way, in restaked way, how to create the best trading and asset management experience, probably powered by your technologies.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to dive a little bit further into the actual product side of universal accounts. So for a little bit of context, chain abstraction, to just provide some more shape to this idea, chain abstraction can ultimately be understood as being defined by an experience, and this experience is just simply one that lacks the manual processes that's surrounding the usage of multiple chains. And this includes bridging, managing balances across chains, stuff like this. And this is actually more ambitious than it sounds. This idea of basically being able to use the entire ecosystem without the typical processes and sometimes friction associated with multi-chain usage. It's actually not a very straightforward problem, because the ecosystem was built upon the idea of isolation. Blockchains are not made inherently to be compatible with one another. So then, the question becomes, how do you enable this fundamental connection and ability for users to leverage the entire ecosystem as if it were one chain, and kind of like create that compatibility. Well, it's actually a stack of multiple solutions, and this is how we kind of position ourselves. Chain abstraction and the acquisition of chain abstraction can be defined through multiple different levels of solutions that are kind of achieving chain abstraction in different ways and for different people. So you have some solutions that are really focused on bringing this to developers and allowing developers to programmatically, like,
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Do cross-chain transactions, and some are actually providing like communication layers for blockchains and stuff like this. So at Particle, what we're doing specifically to help enable chain abstraction is that we're bringing this idea of sort of like account unification, and we're bringing chain abstraction to the account level, so you can really understand our solution as ultimately account level chain abstraction. So what this materializes as is through the means of universal accounts. I can have an account in Web3, and a universal account is just simply an extension of my MetaMask or my Rabby wallet or any other typical wallet that I use. And I can have funds in this universal account that I can use anywhere. And I can use this without needing to do anything except just leverage them. So if I have 100 USDT on Arbitrum and I want to leverage this on Base, then I just use it on Base. That's about it. If I have 50 USDT on Arbitrum and I have 50 USDT on Base and 50 USDT on Polygon, then I have 150 USDT and I can use it anywhere I want. There is no distinguishing between the balance that I have on different chains. It's just my balance, and that's it. So this is really at the core of universal accounts. It's the ability to have truly one balance for the entire ecosystem. And this is really the most important part of it. Because this means that now I can have, however much money I want in the space, and this could be fragmented across 10, 20, 100 different chains, but I would never know this as a user. This is one of the big problems in the space, is because, users, they need to cognitively manage their balances across chains. So this means they need to be aware of constantly, I have some USDT here, I have some ETH here, I have some, token A, token B, token C. So with universal accounts, it's really the elimination of this to a degree where I simply just have my balance and that's the end of it. And then I can use this balance anywhere. And bridging is, for users specifically, manual bridging becomes something that just isn't a thing anymore. And the reason for this is because, at least the philosophy that we have and chain abstraction in general has, is that users shouldn't be aware of the underlying blockchain that an application uses. This should actually only be a decision for developers. So developers should choose what blockchain they use based upon the needs of their application. They shouldn't choose a blockchain based upon where the most users are, where the most liquidity is, because this just leads to further fragmentation. So with chain abstraction, the whole idea is that users become this sort of like universal resource. Users are no longer confined to any single chain. They're not siloed to one chain because there's no friction associated with moving across chains now. Their balances are, as a user, I have no loyalty to one chain because I am now a user of Web3, not of one specific chain, because my balance is universalized through the means of a universal account. So this means that the developers, they now build on chains that, they just deploy wherever they want based upon the technology that fits best, that fits our use case best. And so this means that really the big shift that happens here with universal accounts is that users just start using applications in Web3, and they have no idea of the underlying complexities, or just like really the underlying blockchain that's being used in general, or they don't need to know this. So this is really the important part of universal accounts and how you can understand that. And of course, this is all done through like the evolution of account abstraction. So we use account abstraction under the hood to achieve all this, and it's very interesting the way that it all works. Essentially, we automate bridging, and we have our own Cosmos chain that is basically just responsible for the coordination of cross-chain transactions and achieving like a very fast and efficient like cross-chain transaction workflows in a way where you just click confirm, you wait 10 seconds, and it goes through. And in the background, we like move funds across chains, we do swaps and all this stuff, and it's quite complicated. But it results in this user experience and this just kind of main product goal, which is the ability to have one balance across all chains. So this is really how you can understand universal accounts. It's like achieving this goal for our end users. And we do this through the means of a lot of different infrastructure, primarily though kind of bound by our Cosmos chain, which is ultimately the ability, gives us the ability to coordinate cross-chain transactions in a way that's verifiable and decentralized. and of course kind of act as a point of verification and stuff like this for universal accounts. So it's quite a comprehensive solution, bringing chain abstraction to the account level and doing so in a way that's decentralized and available across the entire ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Ethan. And I believe, for me at least, but I think for the most of our listeners, was the like proper introduction to the chain abstraction and account abstraction industry. And yeah, it gives a lot of clarity on how things are actually working behind the scenes, and what is behind all the seamless tech that you're building, and how it actually works and what you want to achieve. Thank you so much for this great breakdown. And I want to ask Julian more on the AI side, because Web3 is difficult, but AI technologies are difficult as well. And besides onboarding people to crypto, you at KIP, I believe, also have to onboard people to AI and teach them how AI can benefit their, I don't know, personal tasks, their education, their like businesses, automation of certain processes. So how do you work on like simplifying like AI, let's say, experience with like chatbots or with like data management for people? And how do you see the feedback of Web3 and Web2 users with the KIP product so far?
Sure. Um, I think it's a very good question. It is a question that I think we are constantly finding better ways to answer. Okay, because let's just look at it from the past couple of years, right? So I think when we started in AI consulting through my partner, who is a AI researcher of some fame, but at that time the transformer-based models weren't so commonplace yet. Okay, definitely not as commonly used as they are today. And the use cases of AI seem to be focused on writing machine learning algorithms to shave time and cost in data analytics. But often, because the data itself needs to be cleaned, so it didn't save that much, because the time that you would have saved it using the AI, you're going to make sure that the data is clean. But with the current generation of AI models, in which the data still has to be clean, but it takes a lot of data. You know, when you want to train a model, you can really pump in a lot of data. In fact, they work best when you put in a shit ton of data. So that kind of evolved, right? It evolved from the use cases of AI to be just mainly productivity and efficiency gains in data analysis, so now you have a deployable model, right? Hugging Face, right now there are 500,000 models over there for you to choose from, doing all kinds of different functions, from very large models to very small models. So for us, we picked use cases, or we picked frameworks in that power very specific use cases. So just now I mentioned a little bit about RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. So the reason why we focused initially on this on RAG use cases is because RAG allows users of AI to skip the stage of model training. Because model training, if anything, is the most capital intensive, resource intensive, time intensive, and complex part of, I would say, AI. Right. Most customers, sometimes even organizations with a lot of resources, right? They don't have the necessary expertise, skill set, or patience to be able to train their own model. So RAG became a very viable framework to use to establish use cases where you just use one of the commercially available models, and then you use them on your own data sets without having to train the model itself. Because the models today, the power inference is sufficient to do that, to basically analyze your proprietary data sets as it is. So what we have to do, what we continue to do, is to think about, okay, so what are the use cases in which these make sense, right? So it makes sense when you have proprietary data sets. It makes sense when you don't have the time to train models. It makes sense when you are concerned of the process of model training, even if you did know how to do it. Because let's say you were to train a model, but you would necessarily have to expose the entire training data set to the model itself. And if you don't really know what to do with the model after, or you can't maintain it, or you don't own it, then this becomes a problem. So the use case we think that is, that we think is most obvious, which is exemplified by our recent announcement in our partnership with Open Campus, is in education, right? So in an education setup, the knowledge base, the external knowledge asset, would be used um, to basically contain, say, textbooks, course materials, other kind of academic research, all for the purposes of teaching, right? For tertiary education, to be exact. In which putting those data into a knowledge base, linking it up into with a model into a RAG framework that immediately offers you, well, a teaching assistant at the very least. But obviously, you can build quiz makers, customized tutors, based on the data set itself. If a professor, all of his knowledge is encapsulated by the materials that he's written or he put together, then basically it's the digital twin of a professor that is the result of putting that data set with a model with an application. We are, I think, going quite deep into this particular use case because we think from a commercial perspective, from our project's commercial perspective, this is not only low hanging fruit, but a huge market in which we are very, very new. So I won't pretend to be able to, I would say, list out all the use cases in every single industry, although we do know that AI can be used in every single industry, whether it's on a front facing feature for a customer of that industry or a back office efficiency feature. AI affects all, AI can be used all, but commercially, what we do have to do is to come up with I would say, a use case that is both obvious enough, and an example I gave, I hope that sounded obvious enough, and achievable by us. So a lot of what we do every day is to keep talking to the customers within that space to see what are the actual product features that will go into the AI setup.
Yeah, speaking to customers is super important, Julian, and I also agree. Like from an education point of view, AI can be so impactful, and I saw your partnership with Open Campus as well, which is really interesting. Jose, I actually wanted to also kind of get your viewpoint from Gaimin, and Julian had already mentioned speaking with customers, and obviously gaming, I think, is one of our favorite children within the Web3 space in the sense that it attracts so many users to the ecosystem. What are some of the things that you guys do to attract and also retain the users that you have on your platform?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, when we talk user acquisition and retention, I guess you have two types of users. You're going to have the gamers and you're going to have the people that come for the monetization. When it is for the gamers, we need to have the content. Think of why do you choose your Netflix? Why do you choose your Amazon Prime? Why do you use your platform? So that's why we are looking and onboarding the best games we can, especially personally focused on the upcoming Web3 games. So we have two initiatives for this. One is our incubation, where we find early stage Web3 games. We help them with fundraising, community building, and go to market. And then we put them on our game launcher. Then we also have our Launchpad, which is another avenue of user acquisition. You have the crypto people that want to invest, that want the upside, want the access to investment opportunities, and that feeds to the platform as well. So just to summarize it, content is having more games on a platform, and then it is the rewards. There are people that come they choose us because of the ability to earn the passive income. This income doesn't come from an inflationary token. So they are in the background. Their compute power is sold to third parties, and then we use those revenues to buy our token from the market and then distribute it to these users. So those are the two things that are the main things that attract and retain users on our game launcher.
Nice. And of course, gaming always, it requires a super solid infrastructure, and it also needs to, you have to use all these infrastructure solutions to build and also attract people to your platform. And I know that Gaimin is doing that. And something also that I think is quite interesting is how community actually strengthens your protocol, and also how they stand behind your infrastructure. And I know Tevaera, just from your side, you guys have a very strong community. And I was just wondering what role does your community play in also the development and also governance of the platform?
Yeah, community first always. There was this discussion we were having in our Discord yesterday where I probably, I think I made this comment, why are we even in Web3 if no community, right? So that's been our strength. Really blessed to have a super strong community rallying behind us, and as an ecosystem taking our project forward. They've played a major role in our success till date, right from testing our first game to making a production live, being our ambassadors on socials, onboarding users. They've done an amazing job being a partner in getting the word out. And for our games, it's one thing that was really important for us was to make it fun and fair. Like we give you options to upgrade skins and buy accessories, but none of that gives you an advantage in the game. Our gameplay is beautifully designed around core gaming skill sets. And that's one experiment we did with our first game. With many more coming, just wanted to see how that plays out. And interestingly, we see a lot of our gamers playing our game for taking a break from day-to-day crypto hustle. you know uh, like even as yesterday I was seeing a lot of tweets on my timeline where you had the zk airdrop. There's a lot of discussion happening around it, and a lot of gamers saying, I mean, a lot of community members saying, I don't want to be a part of this drama. I'm just going to go and play Tevaran, right? So those some of those comments were really interesting for us, in terms of validating that a fun leading with a fun game, having really good content on your platform can make a big difference, in terms of user retention and gamers just enjoying it as a game, before thinking about the play to earn and the other kind of models. So hope that made sense. Did I cover all your questions?
Yep. Thank you so much, Gav.
Awesome.
That was a great to hear that. First of all, that your community is so proactive with different initiatives and discussions, and secondly, that you as a founder also pay a lot of attention to it, and that you personally speak to a lot of people and engage with with your Discord server, with your Twitter followers. It's always great to see this direct communications between founders and just regular community members. And I would like to ask the question for everyone, as you're all like founders or core community or core team members of your project. I believe you're always looking for some new, different tools, technologies, solutions, whether it's like related to cross chain or related to onboarding or to some AI models. Let's say, which things do you see might be the biggest like infra narratives that all projects and all let's say crypto teams will implement at some point and will build at some point? Like right now we definitely see that like AI is a like buzzword. We see that chain obstruction is becoming more and more popular. So what do you think might be the next big thing for crypto infra? And or probably you're already integrating something like in silent mode and will present something for your users soon. Who wants to take this first?
Gonna have to pick on someone then. Julian.
Yes.
Why did I get a sense you were gonna pick on me? Um, Well, there's a reason why nobody wanted to answer this question. It's a crystal ball question, right? Um, I think the end result is clear. The end result of what most projects are trying to do, and also a topic of today's discussion, right, is a smoother user onboarding experience that's going to be good for everyone. Whether that comes in from a real, I liked this one of the topics I've been studying recently is the whole Ton Telegram or the Ton network phenomenon, right? In which what they are doing obviously is onboard their like 900 million users onto Web3. Is a smoother way to do it is try to convert more people into Web3, through say points or games. Games, I mean like the social fight games and all that. Or is it trying to see where they are or already are on the Web2 platform and basically start switching out the infrastructure of it to be more and more Web3 to suit certain business reasons. Like, for example, if there was a game, I'm not in a game business, obviously, but if there was a game that wanted to progressively increase the ownership or, in the sense, release the ownership back to its players, right? Would that be a faster way to onboard users? Because I think if there is one thing that unites, well, definitely all of us on this call, and also every single Web3 project out there, is what is the most efficient way to onboard a huge number of users, right? So chain abstraction, I think, extremely important in terms of making it easy, because the number of blockchains out there can be mind-boggling even for Web3 natives. There are quite a couple of chains that were launched this year that I have not added the necessary RPC to my wallets. Okay, so I have not interacted with them yet. Yeah, CK Sync that launched recently, I have interacted with that once in a testnet, and then I just had no time. So I think all the problems regarding, I mean, we were talking about UX just now, right? But UX is part of a bigger, the UX experience from the product perspective is part of a bigger problem facing our entire industry, right? So how do you make it seamless? And what are not only the channels for decentralization, but what are the reasons for decentralization? That's my contribution to your very, very difficult question, Niani and Peter.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's very insightful and helpful. Especially, I also want to point out all the achievements that Ton ecosystem and Telegram integrations for Web3 projects has made for adoption and doing for adoption. And it's definitely that what we see from various teams and builders trying to play with it and trying to use it as a funnel for attracting more customers. And yeah, that's definitely very helpful. Ethan, what is your take on that, given that the Particle is one of the pioneers of chain abstraction and account abstraction? What can be the next big thing?
Yeah, I mean, I could say it's going to be chain abstraction, although I'm usually like hesitant to say that there's going to be one piece of infrastructure that like I think a lot of the time people tend to get kind of caught up in this idea like we're just this one piece of infrastructure away from like mass adoption, and then it's like, okay, we do that, we like achieve this infrastructure goal, and then like we get to the next thing and it's like, okay, we're just one thing away, and then it's like the next thing, it's like, okay, we're just one thing away. So like, I think in general it's like I won't say that like we're just one technology away from getting like 1 billion users in this space and like seeing like this massive explosion of popularity of Web3. I do think that chain abstraction is going to play a very key role in making it much easier for new users to leverage Web3 without necessarily knowing it. Because at least the feature that I see like infrastructurally is that, like, in my opinion, like, personally, I think that generally what is going to attract most users is not going to be onboarding them into Web3 specifically. And what I mean by this is that, I think that a lot of the time there's this notion of like, we're going to educate the next, like we're going to educate a lot of users into the space. Like we're going to teach them all how to use MetaMask, and we're going to teach them all how to connect to different chains and how to use RPCs. And I'm like, I mean, I think that most people aren't necessarily capable of that. So it's like, well, how do you onboard users if like just the means of interacting is too complicated. And I mean, the natural question is, well, you simplify that, and I think this can eventually go to a degree where Web3 applications ideally are very similar, if not equivalent, in user experience to Web2 applications, where I log in with my Google account or my email or whatever it may be that I use within Web2 normally. I am using this application. I'm doing on-chain transactions. I can, deposit funds, whatever it may be. And like, I don't, as a user, I don't even really know this is running on blockchain. All I know is that it's just like using these different mechanics, and it's quite interesting or whatever it may be. Or maybe it doesn't even require me to deposit funds. Maybe I just do whatever, and then I can go and interact across other applications and so on. So I think like in most cases, the really a big part of the user experience is going to be quite interesting is applications that really start to blur the line between Web2 and Web3 and make it feel so comfortable for Web2 users that it just feels like a natural extension of what they're already used to. Like there's no learning curve there. I think as long as there's some degree of learning curve there, it's going to be, we just have to, there needs to be some higher reason for users to want to come into the space, and usually that's incentives. But I think that even like with chain abstraction, what you're going to be seeing is like incentives themselves are shifting significantly from the chain level to the application level, because right now, like what you see is you see a lot of money being spent from chains on trying to onboard users into their ecosystem. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's like, at least to me, I see it as like, you can imagine if like Google Cloud was like spending billions of dollars a year, like trying to get users to leverage applications built on Google Cloud. It's like, why? Like, like what's the point of this? Like this doesn't make any sense. Like I see the same thing as being very similar with blockchain. It's like, well, why are blockchains marketing to users? Blockchain should only be marketing to developers. And like, this is really what chain abstraction is going to enable, because the reason why they're marketing to users is because users need to manually move their funds into the ecosystem to leverage applications on it. So it makes sense that, you want users to be aware of your ecosystem because they need to. But when this is all removed, then all of a sudden you have this dynamic in the ecosystem where developers, you have two things, right? So you have developers that are now, like they're just building on whatever chain that they want, and chains are no longer marketing to users. They're only marketing to developers. So incentives are mostly on the app level. And then furthermore, competition in the space also changes, because as a developer, I'm no longer only competing with those in my ecosystem. So if I'm building a DEX on Linea, I'm not only, like right now, I'm only competing with other DEXs on Linea. So I'm not really competing with a DEX on BNB. But with chain abstraction, all of a sudden, like these barriers are removed, and every application from every ecosystem is all of a sudden competing with one another, which I think is actually a good thing, because it makes Web3 much more like a free market. Because all of a sudden now, with every application competing against one another, you have this much larger drive for innovation. So all that said, I do think chain abstraction is definitely one of the kind of key technologies. I think, like, I wish I could give you like one technology that is like, going to be like the 100x or whatever. But I think that like ultimately the trend overall that you're going to see is that technologies that can take Web3 to be a little bit more Web2 like incrementally, until there is this kind of blurring between the two, where it's just so easy to get you like Web2 users into applications to the point where they barely even know, if at all, that they're using Web3. I think that this is really the experience. It's like infrastructurally is going to be really important. So that's my answer to the question.
Yeah, really great way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Blurring the lines between Web 2 and Web 3 solutions is really, I think, is what it's going to be what prevails as well. And you're right, like there are just so many really interesting innovations just within Web 3 itself. It's tough to pinpoint like one technology that is going to get us the 100x or what you were saying. I do just want to be conscious of time, because believe it or not, the hour is almost up. And just to the audience who's listening, if you do have any questions, make sure to pop them into the comments. If we don't get to your question, we can always see if the speakers are willing to answer them in the comments. Or if you have any questions, you can also request to speak. I wanted to end the session with actually giving you guys the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about any alphas that you guys have, any initiatives that are coming up, and also how your community can get involved. Gav and Jose, I know that you guys at Tevaera and Gaimin, that you guys have a lot of initiatives already. There's the fan loyalty membership as well at Gaimin. Jose, can you tell us a little bit about any alphas or how we can get involved?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think the most exciting thing that we're building besides the fan tokens is the launchpad, like I mentioned before, because the way that we saw it was not okay. We see what everyone else is doing, copy the same thing. We really took a step back, looked at what was the problem in terms of crowdfunding, and how do we have the best product, bring the best product so that users can invest. For example, you have most of the launchpads, you have staking mechanism, and that acts as an entry barrier because you have to buy the launchpad token, you have to stake it for a fixed amount of time, and then you're taking that risk of holding the token. And there's limitations. You have one, the price of that token fluctuates, so that means that the barrier of entry fluctuates. And two, most of these have a pool of users. It's a pull weight. So the more users that participate in an investment opportunity, the less tokens everyone gets. So we've come up with a new model that has zero entry barrier, that scales, and that we're going to be releasing in hopefully less than 3 months, ideally too. So I think that's a thing I'm the most excited about at the moment.
Great. How about you at Tevaera, Gav?
We have a very exciting daily quest, going on in our game right now. It's a game within a game. You have challenges within the game that you have to complete. Two challenges every day. If you are able to complete them successfully, you can do a Wheel of Fortune spin at the end of the day, and you get these karma tokens, for spinning it. And then there are bonus streaks that we are giving out as well. If you're able to do challenges consecutively, a lot of exciting feedback around this. There's a lot of excitement in our community. Probably on the alpha, I would say all of these karma tokens and points that you're earning, will be redeemable to Teva token as we, launch our token here. So, super exciting times. We want to reward our community for playing the game and being our early supporters here. So, anyone else who hasn't played the game here, do try it out when you get a chance. It's a really easy game to play, but super fun and fair. And thanks for the opportunity, to share this with the community.
Yeah, of course. Ethan, anything from Particle Network?
Yeah, we have a lot coming up over the next few months. We're getting ready for the launch of universal accounts on different mainnet chains. At the moment, it's on testnet, and we're getting ready to spin everything up on mainnet, and of course, do a lot of other very large things around that. So moving very quickly, a lot of really exciting things. If you want to learn a little bit more about what we're building, go to our Twitter handle at ParticleNTWRK. We've been doing a lot of work around kind of explaining chain abstraction and trying to bring this idea to more people in the space. So if you're interested in learning more about chain abstraction and what this actually means, you can also go to blog.particle.network. And we have lots of pieces on kind of exploring this vertical. And then, of course, our main site is particle.network. So yeah, a lot of really cool stuff happening. I think it's a very interesting kind of vertical chain abstraction. So definitely check that out if you're interested in learning more. And thanks again for having me. Really good space, and glad that I had the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. And also, obviously check out Particle Network, but also all the other projects. So Kip Protocol, Tevaera, and Gaimin, they all have their Twitter handles and websites, and they are also on our on the tweet of this spaces. Julian, last but not least, see, I didn't pick on you first for this one. Any alphas that you can share with us? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, we have our social campaign happening.